G'day guys, and thanks for joining me. Today is an exciting day for our household. We're finally beginning our renovations, long awaited and too long if you ask my wife. What we're doing here is this window is in our lounge room, and it's quite a large room, and that wall there backs onto our kitchen. So our plan is today we're going to install a smaller window, which is probably just a little smaller than the center of this one. So that window's got to come out, and then we're going to install studs and frame out to the size of the new window, and this will allow room to create a butler's pantry in this area, and a wall will come out right across down to here, and that'll create a cavity inside here where we can later on install bench tops, shelves, and that'll become a butler's pantry, and a hole will be cut in that part of the wall which leads into the pantry on the other side of the kitchen. So that's the plan today. We've already removed those roll down blinds. We had some curtain up here and some curtain track, obviously, and that's all been removed. I'll just shoot out to the outside and show you what had to be prepared on the outside. Okay, here we are on the outside. We've made a bit of room. We had a table here and a pool table over there, so I've moved them out of the way over there to give me more space here, mainly for when we get the window out. Okay, prep work. Above my windows, as you can tell from here, we don't have brickwork. We've got a cement sheeting that covers above the window, and there's that little corner. It's a bit of hardwood cornering which hides the whatever gap we have there. So that was removed. That was a little difficult to remove on this piece because it went from brick to brick and there's no way to get in underneath it. So what I did there was I actually screwed a screw into it and then used a pair of pliers, because they're only held in by brads, and I just pulled down, and that sort of pulled the brad out, and I had to screw another one in about half a metre along, and just kept doing that until I removed the whole thing, because I didn't want to break it, because otherwise I'd have to buy another one, where this one I'll only have to cut it down to suit the new window. And I did the same thing with the cement sheeting. I got a screwdriver underneath the cement sheeting because that was only held on with little cement sheet nails along the centre. I think it had about 5 across the whole length of it. So that's all that needed to be done there to prepare that. So this window now, once I remove the architrave from around the window on the inside, there will only be, 3 or 4 nails through the reveal, which is the inside timber work, which is nailed into the studs. So there'll only be that on the 2 sides. There may be a couple on the top, I'm not sure yet. I have to wait till I remove the architrave so I can see between the window frame and the plaster. But yeah, that should be ready to come out, apart from maybe a little bit of build up of debris over the years, jamming up in the edges there. That should be all we need to do. So I'll get into removing that reveal, and I'll come back and just show you progress reports as we go. Cheers. Okay, so making some progress. Got the top architrave off and the side. And before I finish taking off this last one, I thought I'd mention, because this plaster's staying, and I want to get this off without damaging this plaster if I can, I noticed when I was pulling up the top edge there, it was starting to peel the paint off the plaster. So just as, if you do find that happening, I know it's hard to see, but I've ran a knife between the edge. The reason it tries to peel it off is because the paintwork, when the architrave was painted on the wall, it's joined with the paint of the wall paint, and you need to cut that. So you just run a knife down the corner there, all the way down, and that scores it. So that's enough. It's really only the paint that's joining it. So once you score that, now when I take this off, it won't try and take the paint and the paper from the plaster, or the drywall as you Americans call it, off the wall. Okay. Okay, so all the architraves been removed, and now all we have to do is hunt up where the nails are. There'll be nails going through here. There's one there. There's probably at least 3. There's another one there, and found another one there, and looks like another one down there. So you got 4 there. I can't see any in the bottom, and just as well, because they will be very difficult to get out, because it's probably 0 gap on the bottom, and they don't normally put any on the top either. But these screw holes here were actually we installed them about 10 years ago, because the architraves had nothing behind them to hold them on, and when we screwed the curtains, they were actually pulling the architrave off the wall, so we had to install that bit of pine behind there, and that was screwed in from underneath. So we're getting there. We'll find these screws, all these nails, and I'll remove a couple more screws to remove, and then I'll show you how we cut through them. Basically, I use a reciprocating saw, and the blade just goes in there and cuts through the nail very easily. Okay, check you soon. Okay, so if we look, I shine a light between the gap, we should be able to see the nail. It's about down here somewhere. Where are we? Where's the nail? Ah, there it is. Okay, so where are we? There's the nail. There's the nail there. All right, there's the nail. Bit of plaster sort of blocking the view, but that's it there. Just above that bit of plaster is a metal nail, and if you keep coming down, all right, so we've got one that's there, as you can see there. This bit of plaster fill blocking it, so I have to chip that away. Another one down the bottom here. Looks like there's 3 on each side. There it is in there. Okay. And basically all I do is, this is my hacksaw. I do have a sawzall, but that's a bit two-handed job, that one. This one is quite easy. So you see the nail there, you just go down till you hit it, and it's just a matter of, and we're done. We've cut the nail. And I just have to do that for the other 3, and the 3 on that side, and that window should come out. This one I've got some plaster work in the way, so might have to come from the top. here on this side. Actually, that's a bit high. I might need 2 hands for that. So I'll bring you back once I've cut through them all. Yeah. All right, we've got all the nails out, and surprisingly, it's coming out fairly easily. So let's go. Oh, the whole lot go over that side. Yep. All right. Yep. Here, there's a nail sticking out of the stud. That's what it was. There's a nail that's sticking out of the stud. It was getting caught on it. Okay, so this window is quite heavy. It's heavy for me, so it's going to be a lot heavier for my wife. So what we plan on doing is, I've got to remove quite a few of these bricks anyway, because the new window is only 700. That's going to come to about here somewhere. So I have to remove a section of these bricks anyway, and that'll get us below the height of the top plate here, and that way we can bring this dolly in, rest it on the dolly, and then my wife can just guide it rather than having to take the weight, and I'll lift from that side until we can get it on the other dolly. I'm going to try something with these bricks. I've got a carbide tooth reciprocating blade here, which I'll plan on cutting through the mortar and then just sort of knocking the brick loose. I want to try and keep these bricks if I can, because they'll come in handy for the other window. So we'll give that a go. Change this blade over. Okay. Well, that works surprisingly well. Wow, that goes to show you how far our blade technology has come along to cut masonry like that. I know it's only mortar, but usually masonry just destroys any sort of edge on a blade. I think that's plenty of room. Make sure there's no nails there. Got one there. It's out of the way. So I'll just clean this up a bit. Just please the veranda. Thank you, Summer. Okay, so we've given it all a clean up, gotten rid of all the debris, all the insulation, cobwebs, you name it, it's gone. And I've measured up the new window which I knew what it was. The new window is 700 wide from the inside of the reveal to the other side of the inside of the reveal. So it's 19 mil thickness for the reveal. We'll call it 20 on each side to make it easier. So outside dimensions of the window are 740 millimeters. I'm going to give a 10 mil gap this side and a 10 mil gap on that side, because my architrave more than covers that distance, and that'll just make for easy installation. I've just discovered that the height of my old window from the outside of the reveal is 10 mil higher than this particular window, the new one. So, but I'm not going to alter the height of the bottom. I'm just going to compensate at the top of the window by adding in a spacer for where the reveal, where the architrave will nail into. And I already had a spacer on the old window. As you might remember, I unscrewed it, and I'll do something similar with this one. So that's where I've just marked, measured out to 760, which gives me 10 mil gap on each side of the outside of the window reveals. And now I'm going to install these packers, which the window sits onto. So it'll set the original height of where the old window was will be the same, and I'll end up with an extra 10 mil gap at the top, which I'll just slide in a piece of timber at the top to take up that gap. And I may even have to cut the plaster back at the top of the window and install a larger piece, just to cover any gap between the plaster and the architrave. But we'll see what happens. I may have enough architrave to cover that gap. We'll see what happens. Now I'm just about to nail these down. I've sort of got a position. I don't need them all the way to the edge. I'll just have a small gap there and a small gap there, so the window's supported all over. I don't think it's only 700 wide, so I think it'll cover that small gap. There's no weight on the window. The window already had a lintel to support the larger window, so I'm just going to continue with that same lintel, and that'll support the weight of the roof over this smaller distance, and I'll just add studs to there. I just bought this for this particular job because I do have quite a bit of framework to do and noggins, so because this is going to go out that way and then back in that way, and I've also got the other frame to do for the other window. So I did have one with a compressor, and I've used it before on a large job where I built a frame for a fairly large shed, and look, technology has come and I've just upgraded more or less. I could have used the other one, worked fine. I just, the hose gets annoying, and yeah, when the air pressure drops and you gotta wait for the compressor was another annoying factor. Where this, the amount of nails you get out of one battery is unbelievable. So I'll turn it on. We're on, and I'm not sure what mode I'm in. That's the multi, and I'm on the single. I think I'll start with the single. So we just need to line up that so it's not over. And we'll put a couple in there. That's done. Same as this one. Beautiful. that's it. All I have to do now is I'll start working my stud work. Start cutting my studs, and the way I've worked it out is the length of timber I've got, it's long enough so that when I cut it for this length, if my calculations were correct, I should have more than enough for the length that once I cut each stud, that'll give me the offcuts will become the noggins, so really reduce the amount of waste. Because I don't know what it's like around the world, but at the moment timber is fairly expensive in Australia, and so if I can save on having to buy an extra length just for noggins, it works out in my favour. Alright, so I'll get into that and I'll come back and oh, before I do that, another little thing, you've probably seen these before. This is a laser measurer, and it's a Stanley Fat Max. I've had it for quite a few years. I originally bought it for when I was building this veranda, because I built it on my own, and I knew I wouldn't have anybody else for long distances to hold the other end of the tape. And this is good for about, I think, 60 metres or 65 metres. So, but it's great for measuring these sort of things where the tape, it's a long distance and it wobbles around, you can't keep it straight. But basically this, you just sit it on your bottom plate and line it up, because the timber is not flat, it never is, with where your top plate is. Press the button, and I've got a measurement of 2 metres, 118 millimetres. And I'll do that at each position of where my studs are going to be, so that when I cut each stud, I'll cut it to suit. Because timber's not straight, and if I've learned anything from the builders who built this house, not everything was done to perfect standards, if you know what I mean. So, and it was a big eye opener, because this is the first house we ever built, and when I did build it, we were quite young. I think I was only about 23 years old when we built the house, and my expectations, coming from a background as a fitter and machinist, was that you know, you did things as close as you could get them, and I was used to working with very tight tolerances, but the builders, yeah, don't work within that corner. If it's within 20 mil, they're happy with that sort of thing. So I'm expecting a bit of a variance between even over this distance to there, so I will measure each stud independently, so that I don't have one that's in there and it's so short, or it's too long and I've got to trim it again. I'll measure them independently as I go. And I won't bore you with all those measurements. Basically, all I will do is I'll measure it, because this line that I've marked down here is where the stud's going to start. I'll just, I'm using 90 by 45 millimeter studs, pine, structural pine. So I will mark a line 45 mil out, and I'll put the measurement on that stud base, and then I'll put that one in and measure. Yeah, we'll keep measuring out and make sure that's plumbed with a level before I fix it into position. And with this, generally, when I've done this system before by using this, because it's an exact measurement from there to there, if I make this cut, it generally is a tap-in fit, because it's size for size, and that's what you want. So you can tap it left and right without it falling and moving on you, till you get your plumb, and then just skew nail it into the base here. Alright, well, I'll get into that, and I'll mark out the studs and where they're going, and I'll quickly show you before I go putting the studs up, so you can get an idea of what I mean if you haven't got it from my experience. Alright, so worked out where our studs are going, and put one there, and there'll be one right next to that, because it's double stud next either side of the window. Then we've got our second stud here, that's actually not 405 because I went back and started from here, 405 to here, which is 450 center to center of the studs, and then another 450 to this one. Then I've gone from here to 450 to this one because the noggins on these ones are going to be turned in this orientation because this is where my T-wall connection is going to be, and that stud coming up the end will be joined to all them. Alright guys, here's the progress. All studs bar, I've got to put a double stud here, so that's on the other side of the window. Yeah, but the reason why this is so narrow compared to these ones is these are standard stud widths, but because that will be where my wall comes out. To attach the wall for a strong join, there will be noggins placed, 3 noggins or maybe even 4 noggins will be placed between these all the way up, and then the wall, the end stud, will butt against those noggins and then they will be nailed in. That's the plan. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. So the plan is I'll put this final stud in and then I'll start the noggins. And I'll come back once we've done a bit more. See ya. Okay, we've got the window frame in. We used these window spacers, and I just put them in here so that when I nailed it, it wouldn't move it over and close up the gap anymore, because we want a minimum 10 mil. And then I used these 10 mil spacers to give me 10 mil off the stud and flushed it off with that, and that allows for the plaster to sit on the studs and come flush with the reveal of the window. And so 3 nails, like we remove the other one. And now all that's left is to continue the noggins. Now there's length of the screw nails.
All right. Ah! We gotcha. We gotcha. Papa. So she'll come out to you.
Kicks, come on. Come on.
Go.
Come on. This way. Alright, so this is the progress so far. As you saw before, windows in and noggins are all done, studs were all done. I've now applied this brace ply, and not because it needed it, but it can't hurt and it will stop, you know, bugs and wind and dirt blowing inside the house. I'm going to put another piece between here and there, and then that'll do it for tonight. We'll be bug free, hopefully. Well, relatively bug free, and that'll do me. So I just got to cut one more piece. I'm going to have to cut it to length and to width, this one, because that was the full width of the sheet. I just had to trim it down. This one I'll measure it up, rip it down to width and trim it across the top as well, and we'll put it back up and we'll be done. Yeah, that dog Gixie wants to go inside. She's already been in a couple of times. She's discovered that the wall is no longer there. All right, I'll get into that and we'll show you when it's all done. See ya. All right, here we go. Final piece of the puzzle. Well, for tonight anyway. So that's ready to be nailed on, and then I think I'm calling it for tonight. I'll put the foil on tomorrow. I'll get rid of all these bricks, and yeah, I just have to begin toothing that out through the brickwork. So you've got to go here.